Hey everybody, off the Mike Sports Network here. We're going to talk college sports here, which is actually a field that I'm very grounded in, because considering it's my day-to-day job at SiriusXM. For those who follow the channel, a significant story that in some circles will fall under the radar because it's college sports, and hey, it's off-season football fodder. A lot of people don't care about that, but Oklahoma and their football program made a really interesting hire, a very high profile hiring in the world of personnel development and draft prospects. They hired Jim Nagy, who is the executive director of the Senior Bowl for almost the last decade, and did a phenomenal job at bringing in talent and bringing in media coverage, and just the way that game has gone in terms of like bringing in prospects and highlighting these prospects at that game in Mobile, Alabama. Jim Nagy, also an incredibly bright guy in terms of scouting and personnel. He's been around football for a long time. So for Oklahoma and Brett Venables to go in and get a guy who had got NFL interviews. I think the Jets might have interviewed him for their vacant general manager position. But I mean, seriously, and you've seen USC has now hired a general manager. Andrew Luck, the longtime quarterback for Stanford, went back to his alma mater to be a GM. Ron Rivera, the former Commanders, Redskins, Washington football team coach, along with Carolina Panthers Super Bowl coach and a Super Bowl winning player, he went back to his alma mater of Cal and is going to be in a general manager capacity. With NIL the way that it is, and with the way the transfer portal has evolved college sports, and we also saw North Carolina football with Bill Belichick. They bring in a longtime NFL executive, Michael Lombardi, who had been a media personality. They bring him in to be their GM. In the college basketball world, Hubert Davis brings in a former agent to, be the general manager of this team. I think that general managers in college sports are going to become a normal thing, because what you are seeing before your very eyes, and what you have seen really in the last 5 or so years, is the evolution of college sports into professional sports. Effectively, it's another minor league. And seeing a personality and a big name like a Jim Nagy, not to disrespect Andrew Luck and Ron Rivera, but those guys are former players and former coaches. But we're talking about Jim Nagy, who has been evaluating players at the college level and has been orchestrating the Senior Bowl, which is one of the top college all-star games. For him to make the jump, not go to an NFL job, take a job in the SEC at Oklahoma, is a big, big, big deal. And it is a statement that I think, and especially with somebody like a Bill Belichick, who had been out of coaching to go to college, if you have the ability to bring in these general manager types, you might start to see some college coaches potentially, like I'll throw this out there, maybe a Chris Peterson, if he can surround himself with a type of a general manager. Maybe Chris Peterson wants to get back in. Maybe some of these college coaches who got out of it because of this exact thing, of the way that, the recruiting aspect, having somebody as a general manager to manage NIL, to manage the roster, to help manage the roster and funds and stuff. Like I said, this is going to effectively become professional sports. So good for Jim Nagy. I think it's a great hire for Oklahoma. This is exactly the type of thing that college sports that I'm totally for, because I've hated the element and the professionalization of just the free. And at some point, I hope the NCAA comes in and basically, has some regulations on player mobility and, how we can, kind of, make this more and more like professional sports with some sort of guardrails and boundaries. But we may be years away from that even happening. But this was a big step and a big note to the rest of the college sports world that I'm here to tell you, more than ever now, the professionalization of college athletics is here. And you better get used to it. And it's been coming for a while. I didn't like how it was introduced. We're starting to get more things pieced together. But now that you're actually seeing these established roles in programs, that's important. And like I said, this, of all the names in terms of like personnel perspective and like, people who have been around been around the business. Like obviously, we looked at like some of these other names in terms of like Ron Rivera and Andrew Luck and Mike Lombardi. But like I said, Jim Nagy organized the best college all-star game in all the world. He knew college athletes. So it says something that, hey, yeah, he didn't get an NFL job, so he's going to take a GM job at one of the top college programs in the SEC in Oklahoma. They didn't have the greatest first year in the SEC, but this is a big statement. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.